Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into the fascinating, high-stakes battle against physics and the elements that literally keeps global trade moving. If you've ever found yourself wondering what exactly stops thousands of tons of heavy cargo from simply tumbling into the ocean or sliding right off a highway truck, well, the answer is cargo lashing. It's a world of incredible tension, heavy-duty engineering, and absolutely zero room for error.
Here is our roadmap for today. We are covering the high stakes of shipping, the physics of cargo securing, matching gear to the load, navigating liability and compliance, 5 fatal securing mistakes, and finally, some incredible real-world survival stories. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the high stakes of shipping. And trust me, it's about way more than just slapping on a few straps. Let's look at what actually happens when securing goes wrong in today's fast-paced, high-volume shipping industry.
Poor load securement? Yeah, it's definitely not just some minor operational hiccup. We are literally talking about a massive financial drain that causes millions of dollars in losses for mid-sized traders every single year. The margin for error out there is rapidly shrinking. When a single loose pallet shifts, it doesn't just scratch up the goods. It causes major shipment delays, triggers hefty regulatory fines, and most importantly, it can seriously endanger the lives of the crew, the drivers, or the dock workers.
Now, you might be thinking the biggest risks are sudden braking on a highway or hitting rough seas, right? Well, there's actually a stealthy, invisible threat out there compromising your gear mid-transit. It's a threat that can completely ruin a perfectly engineered lashing plan if you aren't paying close attention.
Mother Nature is literally at war with your gear. Take a scorching 50 degrees Celsius desert or a freezing high-altitude pass. These extremes actually change the physical properties of your equipment. In the extreme heat of the Middle East, standard polyester straps undergo what's called thermal elongation. Basically, they stretch out, lose all their tension force, and go completely slack. Out on ocean voyages, high humidity rapidly rusts and seizes up steel turnbuckles. And on the flip side, sub-zero winter climates can turn heavy-duty plastics and low-grade steel incredibly brittle, causing them to just snap instantly under sudden shocks. So you aren't just fighting movement, you're fighting the weather itself.
Moving on to Section 2, the physics of cargo securing. Because, at the end of the day, engineering always beats brute force. Let's look at the actual laws of the universe we're dealing with when heavy cargo moves.
When a vessel pitches and rolls or a truck slams its brakes, your cargo feels it in every single direction. It experiences dynamic, multi-directional acceleration and deceleration. So your system absolutely has to counteract those forces using these 5 foundational principles. You've got to keep your center of gravity low and distribute the weight evenly. You must apply lashings that directly oppose movement, forward, backward, side to side, and up and down. And honestly, perhaps most importantly, you need redundancy and constant inspection. If one strap fails, the entire system cannot be allowed to collapse like a house of cards.
Now, what's really fascinating here is the magic multiplier effect of friction. It proves that a little bit of brain power easily beats brute force. Imagine a 10-ton machine sitting on a wooden pallet inside a steel container. Wood on steel? Yeah, that's incredibly slippery. If you rely solely on straps, the math dictates you need at least 14 of them just to survive forward braking. But if you slide a simple 6mm rubber anti-slip mat underneath, the friction coefficient instantly doubles. Suddenly you only need 4 straps. You've just reduced your strapping time by 70% and drastically cut down your material costs. How cool is that?
All right, Section 3, matching gear to the load. We need a strategic matrix here because a perfect lashing strategy for consumer electronics is going to utterly fail if you try to use it on a 40-ton petrochemical vessel. Cargo is never one size fits all. Let's map this out to match the exact physical behaviors of your commodity to the necessary securing gear. For standard pallets, you rely on top-over lashing and dunnage bags to fill up the empty voids. But consider heavy petrochemical gear on a flat rack. That has a massive tipping risk due to a super high center of gravity. You literally have to abandon straps entirely and move to mandatory direct diagonal lashing using heavy-duty steel chains. And for dry bulk like grains or minerals, the huge risk there is the free surface effect, where the whole cargo turns almost liquid and shifts around. For that, lashing isn't straps at all, it's cargo trimming to level the surface and installing bulkheads.
Section 4, navigating liability and compliance. We're following the paper trail now, diving deeper below the surface to reveal the surprising legal and financial stakes hidden behind those cargo doors. Because engineering the physical tie-down is really only half the battle.
A flawless physical lashing plan means absolutely nothing if your FCA, free carrier, or FOB, free on-board contract, leaves you legally exposed the second a third-party carrier takes over. If you load a container at your facility under free carrier terms, the internal lashing is totally on you. But the moment it goes to a consolidation hub, things get murky fast. Or under free on-board rules, getting it onto the ship is your cost. But that critical sea lashing on deck, that's managed by the carrier at the buyer's risk. These blind spots trigger massive, drawn-out insurance battles when goods shift and get destroyed.
And that brings us to the MWS, the Marine Warranty Surveyor. Missing this critical piece of paper from the MWS can actually give underwriters the legal right to void your entire multi-million-dollar policy due to unseaworthiness. When you are shipping out-of-gauge or specialized project cargo, you absolutely must bring in an MWS. They review the math, inspect the anchor points, and physically witness the securement before departure. Without their official lashing certificate, a port captain might not even let the ship leave the dock. And an insurance company, they'll run at the very first sign of a claim, leaving your company holding the bag for 100% of the financial loss.
Section 5. 5 fatal securing mistakes. So, what are the human errors that actually cause these high-stakes disasters in the first place?
Because it's rarely an unpredictable act of nature that brings down a load. Here is your ultimate survival checklist. It highlights that the most catastrophic failures stem from these 5 entirely preventable human oversights. It's hooking way too many heavy chains into a single lightweight D-ring until the wall literally shears off. It's using frayed straps just because the yard is moving too fast. It's relying on untrained third-party ground crews who use their gut feeling instead of following required international safety standards. And of course, it's failing to take high-resolution, time-stamped photos of the final setup before those doors close.
Let's take the physics blind spot as a quick example. People often think just throwing more straps over a load makes it safer. But if your strap is tied down at a flat angle, say under 30 degrees, it generates almost zero downward pressure. It might look perfectly secure to the naked eye, but the very moment the truck hits the brakes, your cargo is sliding right out from underneath it. Ignoring the physics of your angles renders even the strongest top-over strap completely useless.
Finally, Section 6, Real-World Survival Stories. Let's step out of the textbook for a minute and look at 2 real-world examples where this level of engineering literally saved millions.
Check out this first scenario from the Middle East. Applying that friction cheat code we talked about, along with loop lashing, stopped 200 tons of steel from turning into kinetic missiles on the highway. Steel on steel has notoriously low friction, right? So instead of crushing the industrial pipes by over-tightening chains, the crew layered high-friction rubber mats between every single tier of pipes. They used loop lashing to control the side-to-side movement and heavy timber chalking at the base to stop any forward surge. The result? Over 700 kilometers of seriously rough roads, and the load did not budge a single millimeter.
And in this second case, proactive mathematical modeling and direct lashing saved a multi-million-dollar asset from a violent ocean storm. They were moving an oversized petrochemical skid on a flat rack. Rather than just guessing, they modeled the dynamic forces beforehand. They deployed 16mm grade 80 direct lashing chains at incredibly precise 45 to 60-degree angles to perfectly balance the downward hold with lateral restraint. The Marine Warranty Surveyor signed off. They ended up hitting a severe storm in the outer Gulf, and that multi-million-dollar skid arrived without a single scratch.
So we've got to ask, is your cargo lashing a hidden vulnerability? Or is it your ultimate competitive advantage? Because once you master the physics, the law, and the gear, you don't just secure cargo. You secure your bottom line and your reputation in the global market. The choice is entirely up to you. Are you going to leave your logistics to guesswork and just hope for the best? Or are you going to engineer your operations so tightly that risk practically becomes a thing of the past? Think about that before your next shipment leaves the yard.